Uh-huh. All right, well, we're recording.
Okay, so we're on. All right. All right, so we got Jax. You're going to go ahead and do the pledge for us again, brother.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Boom, buddy. Do you practice that? Because that's the best pledge of allegiance I've ever heard.
Say every day.
Yeah, I bet he
every
does.
day.
I bet he does.
Cheers.
All right. All right, well, with that, I guess we're going to kick it off, right? So we ended on with immigration and naturalization last week. So I just real quick, let's just go over what that said again, because we really kind of got off the main topic. And I don't think we talked about bankruptcies a whole lot. I think we sort of, at the very end, I just threw bankruptcy in there. So basically, we give Congress the right to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Now, without getting into what our personal feelings are on naturalization and on immigration, I just want to say the one thing that I think we need to do is to get back and to reestablish what the Constitution was calling for with our naturalization laws, in something that best reflects what's best for our country and not for those that are seeking naturalization and immigration. That's all I'm going to say, right? There's a whole lot to naturalization, immigration. That's one of those things that we would really need to spend a whole week on, just case law. We give them the right to establish a uniform rule. And I just kind of wish we would get back to that uniform rule, not based on classes, not based on certain demographics, uniform across the board. This is what you do to get in. We don't make exceptions. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Anybody have anything about that? No feelings, just facts.
I concur.
All right. See, we could have been done with that last week in 22 seconds. Instead, it took us like 45 minutes. So, all right. And then bankruptcies. You know, bankruptcy is kind of a big deal. Did we cover bankruptcy or did we just hit on it? I don't remember. Anyway, basically what we're doing is giving the federal government sole power to establish uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies, right? That's because back in the days of the Articles of Confederation, we were allowing different states to have different rules. So just because Ohio would discharge your debts, that didn't stop Pennsylvania from coming after you, right? Let's say you were living in Pennsylvania at the time, they could come after you even though Ohio's discharged your debts. So what we did was give the federal government, and they do a pretty good job with it. I don't have any problem with the way that they handle the bankruptcy law. We give them the power to set up uniform laws on bankruptcies throughout the United States. I think it's pretty easy. Anybody? What are you drinking? Water? That's not water. Looks a little off color to me.
This wine.
Oh God. Is this what we've become? Have we become a wine group now?
I'm the worst soldier ever, man. I'm not a bourbon guy. Not a bourbon guy.
You are the worst soldier. I'm going to put you in for an Article 15 medal. All right. All right, so moving on then, we'll go to Clause 5. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5, for those of you that are following along, which gives the federal government, on the coining clause, that they have the power to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin. The foreign coin obviously is not that important anymore. Back when we were first starting, we had a lot of Spanish reals, we had British pounds, we had a lot of different money floating around before we had our own money. Now, not so much. And in addition to that, we also allow them to fix the standard of weights and measures. So I know Jeff's going to have a lot to say about this one with the Fed. He hates the Federal Reserve. I don't know where Jeff is. I know he's here though. So there is a clause, and we'll get to it. It's the very last one. I think it's 18. Section 8, clause 18, which is called the necessary and proper clause. And what that one says, and we'll get to it and we'll go over it. We don't have to go over it all right now, but it is, we give Congress the authority to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or office thereof. So basically, the necessary and proper clause gives the government the right, with the authority that we've given them, if they need to expand on that authority, like in this case. Obviously, Congress is not going to coin money, right? The congressmen are not going to show up. We're not going to have state senators sitting there with a hammer and I don't even know what with a hammer and a die set and whacking nickels and throwing them in a bucket. So they've got to have the ability to have somebody do that for them, which they did, and that's the Treasury. So I don't understand, and I'm sure Jeff will chime in here, why we give the Fed any rights to this at all. And we'll talk about this more in the counterfeiting and uniformity clause, because the most prolific counterfeiter in this country is the Federal Reserve, without a doubt. They have no authority at all, and Congress does not have the authority to create them in 1913, make a central bank, nor do they have the authority to control our money. Right? That's up to Congress, and that's up to the Treasury Department, which they had the right. They had the right to make the Treasury Department. And then moving on. Well, does anybody have anything right now before we move on? Any questions? Any comments? So the first three words of this is to coin money, and that has been that's been the fight all along, is the authority to print paper money or bills of credit, right? That aren't based, they're basically fiat. There's nothing backing, except for the good faith and credit of the United States, backing that money. You can't take a $5 bill in anymore and get $5 worth of gold. There's just nothing backing the money. Somebody, come on, man. Is Dave Davis here? He's not here. He's sick. He would be in.
Well, when this was established, wasn't there gold to back it?
Coins were actually struck. I mean, if you remember, right? Coins, we had $20 gold pieces. We had $5 gold pieces. Coins were silver at that time, right? So there was money.
The value of the coin was basically the value of
backed by, right. It was backed by the precious metals. But now we have zinc and nickel and copper and things that aren't worth literally the money that they're printed on, the value of the money they're printed on. I mean, a 1 cent piece, although they're not copper anymore, but that's not even a 1 cent worth of copper, and you're definitely not getting that money out of the metals. So, I mean, I guess the coinage now is probably has gone the way of the paper money. So the coinage clause takes the power away from the states, right? The states are not allowed to anymore make their own money. Back when we started, they were. They could make, they were making 1 cent pieces. Which was a lot of money back then. But they were all making their own. There was a point. Well, I could tell you, I don't have it with me because I just thought of it. I don't think it's not worth me trying to find it. So one of my hobbies is metal detecting. And we metal detect old homesteads, but we don't look for existing houses, right? We look for farm fields where there was a house there 200 years ago that disappeared 130 years ago, and it's been farmed ever since. and we try to get on top of that house, and that's where we find the stuff that we want to find. Sometimes it's just buttons, off pair of overalls, and sometimes it's coins. Sometimes we find silver coins from the 1820s, Spanish reals, you name it.
On a side note, really quick, I'd like to go metal detecting with you. I have an ATX Pro that I need to get some use out of.
All right.
Sorry.
Right on, man. Yeah, we do our homework, and we'll get out there, figure out where you live, and what's around you, and we'll find places. Yeah, I'd love that. One of the coins that I found though was 1834. There was a shortage of coins in the 1800s, and they did allow the states to coin 1 cent pieces under their own states, and they were legal tender. And what you found were that those states were coining, they were making these coins based on things that were important to them at the time. And the one I found, we were down in southern Lorraine County, and it is a black woman, and she's on her knees and she's holding her hands up, and the chains are broken. You can see the chains hanging from her wrist and the chains around her ankles. And it says, "Am I not a sister and a woman?" And what that was an anti-slavery token. It was worth $1 or 1 cent. So I've sent it, or I've looked at it to see what the value is. I need to send it out. It's going to be worth a few $100, just because they're so hard to come by. But we used to allow the states, and that might have been the last time actually, where we allowed the states to print their own money, but that has been taken away from them, and we do not allow the states to coin their own money anymore. And that's one of the things here is that, while the prohibitions on the states is very clear, Congress's power to coin money is very open-ended, which is how we ended up with dollar bills and 5s and 10s and 20s, and all those are bills of credit. That's all they are. That's all they amount to. And that's been the argument all along, is whether or not we have the right to do that. Now, obviously back then they couldn't see things costing what they cost now, right? It just doesn't make sense to only have coins. Can you imagine? I mean, you go buy a car with nothing but a trunk full of quarters to go pay for it. So obviously something had to be done, but that is the argument right now. And I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I'd like to see our money worth something, but it's only worth the credit of the United States. We're only one, and that's one of the things we were talking about last week is China, right? If China were to flood the market right now with American dollars, our dollar tanks. It's not worth anything. At least if they were backed by silver and gold and they flooded the market, they would still be worth whatever that silver and gold was worth. But they're not. They're just bills of credit. So you flood the market, and all that money that you got sitting in your safe at home, it's not worth anything. You just start fires. Anybody?
So I'm doing a little bit of research. I'll post it on our resources page about the U.S. Federal Reserve controls the money supply, and it doesn't print the currency itself. It determines how many bills are printed by the Treasury Department each year.
Correct.
And that when the U.S. Federal Reserve controls the supply of money in the U.S., and when it expands that supply, it's described as printing money. So,
well, and I think that's the problem. I mean, why does the Federal Reserve get to dictate how much money we're printing? That's not their job. That's Congress's job.
Yeah.
Congress sets the value of the money, not the Federal Reserve. And Jeff's right. The Federal Reserve on what gets printed, there's interest. They're charging interest on that. They're making money off of us. And I don't understand the constitutionality of it. I don't understand why, and I would have to look into it, but why these things are allowed to continue on. That is for Congress to decide and Treasury to take care of. That's it. Federal Reserve is the central bank of America, basically.
Yeah, so they talk about quantitative easing as part of the explanation for when they can create money out of thin air, basically. So,
quantitative easing. Oh, well, that sounds official.
Yeah.
It must be okay then.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like politician double speak.
This resource might be a good one if anyone's interested in.
What is it?
It's the Investopedia. It's talking about the U.S. Federal Reserve and government spending and tax laws. So
Why don't you throw the link in the
Yeah,
chat?
I'm gonna put it in the, in the chat. I can do that.
Yeah, chat, and then we can make a post about it at the end. You know what? We probably should. I was thinking about that, man, and I kept saying I was going to do it, and I've never done it. You know, one of my favorite guys to listen to, he's a conservative talk show host, is Andrew Wilkow. For those of you guys who listen to the Wilkow Majority, what he does after every single show, he's not like the rest of these talk show hosts, be it Democratic or Republican. But what he does is he wants you to know where he got all his information, right? He's not trying to come off as the smartest guy in the room. He
Right.
wants you to see where he got everything, and he emails you all the links, all the videos, all the sound bites, everything he used in his show, he sends you because he wants you talking about it. And I've been saying that's what we need to do. We need to keep track of where, you know, these links that we're doing and these things we're doing, and then put them in one post.
Well,
You know, with links.
that's that, that resources, link that I shared. We can share it there. So that
Okay.
it's all there, and we'll just keep updating it each week.
I mean, trust me, that was my biggest, listen, you guys, man, I turned you guys on to my secret weapon here, right? And I did not want to tell anybody about this. This made me the smartest man in the room. I could read this. We could have gone through this entire thing and me just reading out of this book, and you guys are going to, that son of a bitch knows what he's talking about, right? This guy knows everything about the Constitution. Meanwhile, I'm using a book from 1950 that they gave 8th graders, right? But nobody knew about this book because it's so old. Me telling you guys about it, that was a hard one, man. But it's a great book. It's a great resource, and it makes it easy to understand if you guys haven't bought it. I know everybody's finding it on Amazon now.
That's
So-
reprinted in 2014.
What's that?
Reprinted 2014.
Well, mine's actually from 1950, so it's better than yours.
You got the original.
I do. Oh, hey, you know what else? Can I digress for just 1 second?
1 second.
1 second. If you guys remember, I have an inscription here, and I found Mary Ann McCaskey, or I should say I found her nephew. Miss McCaskey just passed away a couple years ago, 2 years ago. She's buried in Avon, and I'm thinking I might show up with my new Trump gear. Right? Might take my flask. Yep. I know what you're getting out. We're not turning this political.
No,
But I may take my flask down there, get a picture with me in front of Miss McCaskey's grave with her book, maybe toast to her and have a quick drink with her. But I did find her. I did find her and her nephew. And he was very happy that I have her book, and he was very happy to learn that I was using this book in doing what we're doing. So
cool.
just thought I would pass that on.
Glad you found her.
Huh?
I'm glad you found her. I think that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it is. I wish I would have found her a couple years ago, but at least her nephew knows what I'm doing. All right. So I've got a case law here, and I don't know why I have it highlighted. All right. So in 1884, that's where a lot of these case laws, you know, actually, this one's pretty late. You had a whole lot of case law coming out right after the Constitution was ratified because you had anti-federalists that were fighting everything. 1884, Supreme Court extended the Knox case, which we haven't talked about, but basically upholding the validity of legal tender laws during peacetime. The court held that the federal government's monetary power was inherent in its sovereignty. Thus, it was not necessary for the Constitution to enumerate this power. Justice Stephen Field's blunt dissent declared, if there be anything in the history of the Constitution which can be established with moral certainty, it is that the framers of that instrument intended to prohibit the issue of legal tender notes by both general government and by the states, and thus prevent interference with the contracts of private parties. And that was one of those fights where they were fighting over the paper money. But you got to remember, though, back then they were still printing $20 gold pieces, right? Everything was coinage, and everything was backed by precious metals. Everything was backed by silver and by gold. So, and that's, a lot of the coins we find when we're digging up these old homesteads, they're all silver coins. I've yet to find a gold one, but you got to remember, man, dropping a gold coin back then was a big deal. Man, they were out there looking for that. It's not like you went into the farm fields with a pocket full of gold. So you can see, I mean, they've been fighting this thing forever. But we are where we are. Moving on. Anybody got anything? All right. Weights and measures. That's still part of the same clause. And we give Congress the power to fix the standard of weights and measures. Again, that was more uniformity than anything. And the problem was that they were finding that if you allow the states to set their own weights and measures, which, I mean, you think about it and it should all be the same. But if you have, I don't know. I mean, a pound's a pound, so I don't quite understand, but I guess you could be using metric and imperial and whatever. What they were finding though is they were having problems, so they set the standards for intrastate commerce, so commerce between the states. Now everybody followed the same weights, same measures, and the federal government has the right to set those as opposed to the states, which I'm all for. I mean, there's certain things the federal government is good at and should do. I have no problem if they want to set weights and measures. My problem comes in everything else. So, weights and measure, anybody? God, I'm moving. Listen, and I only got through half of clause 11. So if we move here quick, what time is it? 23, I'll be okay. If we get past clause 11, I'm winging this thing. I'm pouring a drink and I'm winging it, just so you know. And we might, because I don't have David here to
I know.
expand on things.
Interject, I know.
Yeah, bullshit. Oh, not bullshit, sorry. No swearing. All right, so moving on to clause 6. In clause 6, we give Congress the authority to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. Again, we're down to uniformity on this. Before this was written, the states were all allowed to set their own punishment for counterfeiting, right? And true story, in the colonies, New York, their penalty for counterfeiting was death. If you got caught counterfeiting, you were killed. Connecticut, 6 months in jail. So obviously we need a little bit of uniformity there. I mean, death might be a little much. 6 months, probably not quite enough. But the problem obviously they would have then is that people would, in Connecticut, would counterfeit all the money because they only were facing 6 months, and they would flood New York with it or wherever. So we gave Congress the ability to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting. And, you know, that's where you get now in the necessary and proper clause, the Secret Service gets developed, and now, you know, the Secret Service takes over all the counterfeiting cases, and they're allowed to do that. What they're not allowed to do in the necessary and proper clause is to make laws for things that are not covered or not given authority to them through the Constitution, right? So they couldn't subvert the Constitution and just make laws willy-nilly. Those laws have to apply to things that they have been given the authority to do. Again, well, and if you guys remember the supreme law of the land, right? Federal government maintains federal supremacy, which means that they override all the states on everything. And that's what this does. That's what the counterfeiting, giving them the rights to punish counterfeiting, establishes that federal supremacy. So the states can't come in and do their own thing. And again, I guess my question is, I mean, who would the most prolific counterfeiter in the United States be? I mean, wouldn't it be the Federal Reserve? Right? They're the ones that get to decide when we're going to print money. And they don't have the right to do that. They're just a bank. I mean, basically, they're a central bank for the United States. And again, it's probably something that needs to be looked into, but it's not being looked into by anybody. We're just printing money. Hey, like we talked about last week. What happens in your house if you just raise your debt ceiling? Right? Just raise your debt ceiling. Hey, man, no worries. You know what? I know we're broke right now. I'm going to go ahead and raise that debt ceiling another $1,000. No problem. And that's exactly what we're doing now. Or that's what we're allowing the Fed to do. I mean, I know Congress is the one that votes on it, but I've looked into the Fed a little more since Jeff got me going on the Fed, and I don't know how on board I am with the Fed anymore. So come on, anybody got anything? Brad, you've been quiet.
No, this is kind of stuff that I don't have a whole lot of opinion or knowledge on, so I'm really taking this in today.
Well, and you know what? It's funny you say that, because a lot of what we are talking about here as we go, there was not a lot of opinion on, even when the Constitution was drafted. When we get into Clause 8, there was absolutely no objection at all. That's patent and copyright. No objection at all.
This next one I'm having some issues with.
Post office?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I guess that's, we're going to get into it. Anybody else? Maybe I should just go through here and call on somebody. Should we start doing that, Renee? Should I just unmute people and call on them, and then we mute everybody else and nobody talks until they do?
I think that would make our meetings go much longer.
I can tell you this, that there are a whole lot of nervous people right now.
I don't have any concrete knowledge necessarily about counterfeit, but about 5 years ago, we went down to Myrtle Beach, and we left she's 21 now. She was 16 years old then, to babysit our nieces and nephews while all the adults went out for dinner. And she ordered pizza. She paid for the pizza. And we let her have the change from that as part of her babysitting money for the night. And she comes home, and she came out to the shoe depot or whatever it is out by the Oberlin Walmart to buy a pair of shoes. And the cashier called the cops on her because one of the bills looked unusual to the cashier, who was also a young person. And it was a $20 bill from the 80s. Looked fine to us, but the person was so young that the money looked weird to her.
We've had people call us. We got one of the gas stations out here. You guys remember the old silver certificates? Well, they got a silver certificate. Thought for sure it was counterfeit.
Thankfully, the officer that responded was real kind, and he's like, "Here, yeah, I have some."
Is that me or is that Jenny?
That was Jenny.
Might be Jenny.
Jenny, your connection, I don't know what happened there. You were lagging. I got most of it though. Yeah, but we've had them call on silver certificates. We've had them call on $2 bills. That happens a lot. Yeah, Holly's saying right now we have $2 bills. We got people turning $2 bills to the clerks, and they're like, "Oh, this is counterfeit." And I'm like, "Come on, man! If you're going to counterfeit something, you ain't counterfeiting $2 bills. I can tell you that." Right? You're counterfeiting 20s. And depending on how busy the Secret Service is, they will take cases from us for one $20 bill. Right? If they have that serial number and it's been passed in a couple other places, they'll take that case right away from us. So, I mean, counterfeiting is obviously still a real thing, especially as these printers get better. I mean, you can make $20 bills in your basement now. Not, it's not like back in the 70s where, probably even before that, the 50s, where you had the guy with the little hat on, a cigar out of his mouth, and he's cranking the thing and printing his own money. But yeah. All right. So moving on, what time is it? Where are we at?
8:30.
8:30. I'm doing all right.
And I'm continuing to post some links about the Federal Reserve in our resources. I have a resources by week document now that we can start putting those in. So I'll just keep populating as we go through.
Another good resource, I don't know if we have it in there or not. Check on this link though, as I tell it to you before we just post it up there. I think it's constitution.org, I want to say.
I think so. And I might have that in there already.
Okay. But that is one that I go to quite a bit when I'm confused on something.
I like
sometimes it's
constitutioncenter.org.
Constitution Center.
That's a good one that I've been using.
That might be it. I have it saved.
The
so I don't have it.
archives.org or
No, I think, what?
Constitution US.
No, I think it may be. It is. It's Constitution Center. Sorry. Constitutioncenter.org. And it's fantastic. Like I said, I got it saved, so I don't ever actually type it out. Yeah. So if you could put that one in there.
I'll put it right at the top.
And sometimes it's hard to read. but it makes good sense. All right, so clause 7. This one is so short that I am going to make sure that I have the whole, I do. So this one is so short, but golly, is it a mess. To establish post offices and post roads. We give Congress the authority to do that, right? So the Articles of Confederation allowed for post offices, and what they allowed for was actually pretty good, and that was just kind of copy and pasted right into the new Constitution. But then they added to establish the postal routes. I feel like I had something else to say about that right now, and now it has left me.
I mean, this is my struggle with this. That I was talking about, is just post. It says in the rugged Constitution that you get uniform postage rates, national distribution of mail at low cost. Those are the first two, mostly for that. I think we have those better with UPS, FedEx, and all those other things.
Okay, we definitely do. Now, here's the thing. You're getting that out of what?
This
The
is out of
rugged-
the Constitution.
Okay, the rugged Constitution?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the problem with the rugged Constitution. There is one problem with the rugged Constitution. It was written in 1950.
Right.
All right. So what, and they're right, that's what was given to us. However, here's where the rub comes. The Postal Reorganization Act of 1970, which transformed the post office department, which had been a tax subsidized cabinet level federal agency, and turned it into the United States Postal Service, an independent federal agency with a specific mandate to conduct affairs on a business-like basis. And that is where all the trouble started. Right?
Yeah, it's a business that is run at a deficit for all these years, and
And their pension program is what's killing them.
Yeah.
It's between, like you said, they're running a deficit, but they can't pay their pensions. And you're right. You got DHL, you got FedEx, you got UPS. Everybody can do it cheaper and more efficiently. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, but it's government, right? I mean, I think this is what we expect from government now. I think this is what we expect. I would be more shocked if they ran it like DHL. I'll be honest with you. Right? I'd be more shocked.
You
I
think
mean,
they
we
make
look
a
at the problems
profit
even, what's that?
and run a profit? Oh my gosh, what would they do with the money? There'd be an argument.
You look at all these, I mean, and even today, you look at the stories about the trucks being backed up that can't even get in there, and they're so far backlogged, and you don't see this. When's the last story you saw about UPS trucks sitting on the road waiting to get in to get their stuff? Never.
They just hired 100,000 people just for the season.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
here's the thing that blows my mind, right? So we get this COVID vaccine, right? And what's delivering these things? What are they coming out of the store with, right? It's UPS and FedEx. They're not using the UPS to deliver, or USPS to deliver this federal funding thing, because they don't trust it. It's garbage.
It is garbage. And it does need to be overhauled for sure. If they're going to keep it on as a federal agency, it needs to be overhauled. And I don't know why we're allowing a federal agency with such little oversight, with such little, if anybody else was running like this, right? If the Army was running like this.
They're
we'd be-
running it to pay for the pensions of the previous workers, and it's going to eat itself, and it
But
will. eventually
but you can't pay for the pensions of their previous workers when you're running at a deficit, right? How are you going to pay those pensions when you can't pay the bills? I mean, those guys, man, those previous workers, they are going to lose their pensions. They
Yes.
worked 40 years and they're going to lose everything.
Well, the problem is there's email, there's 9,000 different ways to send messages or postage. I mean, people are paying bills online nowadays. They're not sending checks into the companies that they're
Listen,
paying
in
bills.
fairness, I don't know the last time I used a stamp.
Right. I
Um,
mean, that's one of the reasons. I mean, they're living off of the junk mail world. The shit that we get on Tuesdays in the mail that nobody looks at and gets thrown in the garbage can. I
right.
mean, they're probably charging those guys 15 cents a letter to send the shit out, or maybe it's even a nickel, who knows? But they're not, I mean, they're still selling some stamps to the people who are probably older than 60 years old. They're not selling it to you, me, our kids. I mean, nobody's, I don't know if anybody's even collecting stamps anymore, at least on a regular
You know, I
basis,
mean,
but
maybe, and I don't know how this, there's nothing saying that we have to have a post office in the Constitution.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, is there anything other than the fact that they say they established post offices and post
Nope.
roads?
Nope. They have the right, they have the authority to establish post offices. I don't believe
Not a
that there's,
mandate.
I know I could be wrong. I don't believe there's anything in there that says we have to have a postal service.
No, it's not a mandate.
But where does the Postal Service derive law enforcement capabilities with postal inspectors and where they get to regulate and search packages?
Well, it must be in the Constitution if they're doing it.
Okay.
So I posted a link to the constitutioncenter.org that talks about it, when it was created, and basically goes through the Articles of Confederation, which preceded the Constitution, made it clear that government shall also have the sole and exclusive right and power of establishing or regulating post offices from one state to another throughout all of the United States, and exacting such postage on the papers passing through the same as may be requisite to defray the expenses of the said office. So I don't know. There's more information on this page. I'm not going to read through it, but
Yeah,
it looks like it was started in the Articles of Confederation, and then they noted here in the Constitution. But
well, you know, and it was different times, right? It was different times. Right now, you got FedEx, you got DHL, you got. I was going to say they're not dealing with letters, they're not dealing with mail, but that's not necessarily true. FedEx, man, you can drop in one of their envelopes and send it right out, and then they're doing it more efficiently. And the post office has just gotten passed by in the night.
it gets there faster sending through a courier service than it does through the USPS, and it's not a whole lot more expensive.
But I guess do you consider FedEx a courier service?
I wouldn't say courier, but I mean, if you're sending a letter or something to somebody across the country, it's going to get there a hell of a lot faster than with the U.S. Postal Service.
Right.
And
But I
for
guess
not
that's
much,
what
I mean, if it's a quarter or even 50 cents or a buck more, and it gets there 3 days faster, by post office.
Right. And that's what I'm saying is the post office has gotten kind of passed by in the night, right? So I don't know what it would take. I don't know what it would take for Congress to just say, look, we're done. We're out of the business. We're going to turn this over to private enterprise.
This was Pony Express days too, right? Like this isn't like
right.
the Federation. They're delivering this.
Well,
stuff.
and they needed this. They needed this until relatively recently,
Right.
Recently, when email took off and when all these private companies said, look, we got a model that's going to work better than this. We needed the post office.
Yeah. I think that's what it was, is that they needed to make sure that they were able to communicate with everyone. So I think that's why those two are tied together. The post roads is to make sure that they had those roads that were dedicated to carry mail between the states, to make sure that it happened. But like you said, now times have changed and there are just much more efficient ways of doing things, and the free market. I think just having that ability to have, people creating businesses that can do it more efficiently. So
Does anybody know of any reason why we can't just get rid of the post office? I mean, obviously you can't do it tomorrow, but is there anything, does anybody know of anything in here that says we have to maintain postal service?
Other than mail-in balloting?
Yeah, right.
Mail-in balloting, but what about, government correspondence? The burden would be on private citizens to have to send like your tax returns. I don't want to have to pay FedEx $13 to send my tax return in if I don't file electronically. I mean,
most people are doing electronically now, though.
Huh?
A lot of people are doing electronically now, though.
No, I'm going to the lowest common denominator of people without internet connectivity. Again, the small
My grandparents.
Yeah, the smallest group dictates
right
for the largest, unfortunately, is how it typically works.
Another thing, I mean, I don't know how this factors into it, but right now, basically the government uses it for free, obviously, right?
Yep.
So anything for official business, anything, and there was case law about it, and I didn't highlight it, but there was actually case law about that where people that were running for office had sued because incumbents were allowed to send out all of their propaganda for free, where David Sands is running for Congress. Now he has to pay out of his pocket to mail all this stuff. So the court actually ruled against them in that, and they were now they're only allowed to use it for official purposes, things that have to do with legislating, things of that nature. They can't use it for, and that's why they have these PACs now to pay for all that stuff, but they can't use it for elections and that stuff. But there is a lot of, there's a lot of business being done by the federal government for free. So if we got rid of that, I guess, but you still can't tell me that what we would pay for mail with them is even going to touch what.
Too. I mean, to establish a post office doesn't mean you have to have one in every town. You can keep a post office open at Fort Hood, Texas. You can keep it open in Youngsan, Korea, Camp Casey, Korea, and do U.S. Postal Service stuff at a much smaller scale. Why do we need to do every single corner in the entire United States has a post office on it? Like, you don't need all that.
I guess that's for our Congress to discuss, huh?
Well, really, I mean, I don't know why we just let them keep bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. We're not doing anything to fix it.
Well, they can do this because they also print money.
Well, right. I guess that's all we have to do. If they bleed too much, we'll just bail them out, right? And we'll go ahead and cover the pensions with a bunch of dollar bills we print out.
Okay.
Anybody else? Anything? So basically, the Constitution says that they have the right to establish post offices and postal routes, post roads. All right. So Section 8, Clause 8, we're probably going to breeze right through, because even at the time that hey, quick. Renee, if you read this, don't tell me. Who knows who the first Postmaster General was? First one ever.
Lord Lincoln Mercury.
Was it Benjamin Franklin?
Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, it was Ben. Now, wait a minute now. See, that was long enough for you guys to type into Google, so don't lie to me. Dave?
I knew that.
Dave?
I no Google here. We use
Hey.
Siri.
I'm telling you right now, I'm getting a warrant. I go back to work tomorrow. I'm getting a warrant, and I'm going to look at your search history.
Oh no.
If I see on there that at 8:45 you Googled that.
No.
All right, it was Ben Franklin, very first Postmaster General. You know what? And here's another thing I wrote down and I wanted to talk about. So with the post office bleeding just uncontrollably, here's a fun little fact. The Postmaster General's salary, $291,650 a year. A lot of money. Vice President of the United States, $253,500. Vice President of the entire country makes less than the Postmaster General, who can't even stop the bleeding. So, government.
Someone has to keep control of all those ballots, Jim.
Yeah.
Big job.
Yeah. Good job. Good job. He deserves a raise. He actually deserves a raise, if you ask me. Who had something? Jenny, you have something?
It's
No.
for the wrong group.
Oh. That could have been awkward.
No politics.
I swear I thought it was Postmaster Ford Lincoln Mercury.
Oh. Where are we at?
That's a Waterworld reference for those who don't know.
Oh, hey, yeah. Welcome. Glad you could chime in.
Progress of Science and Useful Arts were on at Club.
8-8.
We need to keep rolling.
Yeah, we are going to keep going. I feel like there was something else that I did not. About the Reorganization Act of 1970. No, well, either way. Oh no, that was it. I basically talked about it. What I was going to highlight is just how this has been. The Reorganization Act was the absolute failure. That's what started the end. Competition from private carriers, expansion of the internet, and a poorly constructed pension system have brought the agency near financial collapse. Because of its severe financial difficulties, both the Postal Service and proposed legislation contemplate ceasing most Saturday deliveries. So, and that was a big thing back then. They had initially ordered that they were going to deliver 7 days a week. Nothing was going to stop them. And then, us being the religious nation we were at the time, they decided to take Sundays off for the Sabbath. Now they're looking at taking Saturdays off, and probably don't be surprised if it goes further than that. Clause 8, patent and copyright. We are giving Congress the power to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Not a whole lot to talk about with this, and they do a good job with it, right? Patent and copyright laws are pretty tough in this country. If you invent something, you are allowed to enjoy the fame and the money that comes along with that for a specific period of time. I don't know what those times are. Photographers, musicians, nobody can come in and steal your work, and they do a good job. Now, there was absolutely no objection to this. There was very little talk about it during the Constitutional Convention. Nobody seemed to have a real big problem with it, nor did anybody seem to really care. I don't remember, again, I didn't highlight it. I don't know why.
You know who loves this clause? Drug
China.
manufacturers.
Who?
Drug manufacturers.
Oh, yeah, for
China.
sure. Yep. Yep. When they come up with a new medication, this vaccine that's out, man, they're going to make a shit ton of money off of it.
Language.
I didn't. Oh, shit ton, I did. You're right.
Again.
A heck ton of. Is Steve here?
Ton.
Is Steve here? Who's here?
Jacob's taking his shower now, so we're okay.
Oh, thank God. Please don't let him watch this.
Steve is here, but I don't know if.
All right, so yeah,
Taking a shower, he has to wash his ears out.
Yeah. Listen, man, if that's the worst he hears, we're going to be
I
okay.
know. I'm just trying to keep you in check.
No, you're right. You're right. I don't remember where this came, God, this is where I need David here. Because there was I don't know. We'll just move on from this. Nobody really cares. There was something in Great Britain that made them do this. But I don't remember what it was now.
Well, this is what the Chinese are taking advantage of right now, right? Like, cool, we have a trademark and patents and all this, but it's only in America. So somebody goes overseas. I mean, I know when I was in Korea, you could get jerseys made on the spot at these little
Dude.
marks.
I got a starter jacket back when those were popular. I got a starter jacket for $10.
Exactly, it's $10 there, and you go, you get an NFL jersey here, perfect, and it's $120. You get it for $15 there, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's overseas.
Yep, for sure. Until you bring it over here, which, a lot of those, you go down into some of these markets, even over here. And you have, you got, I think that's the Secret Service tasked with that part too, I think. But you have people getting arrested for that stuff, right? You see it in the news every now and then, but you're right, over there in Korea.
Yeah, when you have a patent on something and somebody else replicates it, it falls under counterfeiting.
After it ends?
No, while they still have a patent.
Oh,
yeah,
it does fall. Yeah, I guess it does.
Investigated as counterfeit.
Yeah,
product.
right. Although I guess that wouldn't be under our. Wow, that wouldn't have anything to do with Congress's authority.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, you're right.
If I bought 100 of those jerseys in Korea and then turn around and sold them in the States, yeah. But if I buy them myself for personal use, there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Listen, my starter jacket was made great. I probably still have it somewhere.
That's if you get it through customs too, because they're starting to seize that stuff coming through customs now.
What, one jersey at a time?
Yeah, no, the shipments that when they have to clear processing and customs and all that. So
Sure.
they've been putting a hammer on that down the last few years.
Okay. And I don't have any problem with that, man. I mean, the federal government does do patent and copyright right. They do a good job with that. I don't have any problem at all with that part of it.
It was like Thomas Jefferson wanted it included to foster international commerce because he was over in France, and also to develop the U.S. economy as a fledgling country. That's why he included it.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson, he wasn't even here. He didn't, Jefferson did not sign the Constitution.
No, but they really worked on it in the late 1700s, like 1790.
Sure, he had thoughts on it, but he was in France at the signing, which is why he never signed it. Yeah, there was something though, and I don't remember what it is now. There was something about the way they were doing it in Great Britain, and we wanted to change that over here. But anyway, nobody objected to it. We moved on. So let's move on here to clause 9. If they didn't object to it, or they don't want to talk about it, I guess we won't either. So clause 9, inferior courts. God, we might get to 11. Oof. Oh no, we won't. We're good. So inferior courts, we're giving Congress the power. They shall have the power to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. Point of contention, right? It's always a point of contention because we're they say stacking the courts with all these, but every administration does it. We're doing it right now with conservatives, with originalists, which I think I don't understand how anybody could be upset that we're putting originalists in these court positions. But when we did it, there was a little bit of contention with this about having the inferior courts. James Madison was one of the ones to argue this, and one of his earlier arguments was that he was afraid that unless we had these inferior courts that with final jurisdiction in many cases, which the appellate courts are, if you look at most of the appellate court and the circuit court, whatever you want to call them, if you look at most of their rulings, I don't even know what the percentage is, but it's got to be high 90s. Never make it to the Supreme Court. That's it. That's the final word. Even if they go to the Supreme Court with a circuit court ruling, Supreme Court will usually shoot it down and they'll send it right back down and leave it standing with the circuit court. So his thing was that without those and without them having final jurisdiction in many cases, that the docket would be overloaded and it would become an oppressive expense, which I have to agree with. The question is now, and we'll get into this when we get into Article 3, but the question now is going to be whether or not these inferior courts are overstepping their bounds. We do have some activist courts out there, right? The Ninth Circuit out there in California, Oregon, Washington, the West Coast. They're an activist court right now. Anybody got anything? Because I got more that I can talk about here with you.
Not a whole lot. I want to be careful to use the term stacking the court. And right now, I don't see a lot of stacking the court.
I'm using I should not have used that. I'm using their terminology.
Yeah, because there's a difference between stacking, which is creating new positions.
Correct.
And filling current.
Everything we're doing right now is constitutionally allowed.
Yeah.
Not only allowed, but it is.
And so is stacking, but it's different. You're allowed to stack the court. There's nothing that I understand in the Constitution that says you can't add Supreme Court justice, and we'll get to that later. But I just want to make sure the terminologies.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I guess I should have done my air finger quotes. Sorry. Stacking. Anybody else? Come on, Jeff. I know you've got to have something, no? Where's David Davis? Let me get him on the phone.
No, it's pretty self-explanatory.
What did I have highlighted here? Yeah, I mean, I could go over all the case law and stuff, but it doesn't matter because right now, basically what you need to know is that the courts are authorized by Congress. They are authorized to do what they're doing. They're authorized to fill them the way they are filling them. There's always going to be people that are complaining about it. There was a lot of talk about it. And I don't remember who, I'm trying to look. I don't remember who it was. George Mason, maybe. But one of them basically said, look, the way that you want this when they started, the way you want this is to have one court overseeing the entire country. And that's not the way it's supposed to work. That is supposed to be the top stone in a pyramid, right? And if you look, for those of you that have the rugged Constitution, if you look at it, I mean, that's the way it works, right? There's a Supreme Court, you got Court of Appeals, and underneath the Court of Appeals, you have different district courts, and that's the way it's supposed to work on the federal level. I just think having one Supreme Court would just be too much power. I don't have a problem with the way they have it set up. I'm glad they have it set up the way they have it set up, as long as it works right and as long as the circuits aren't overstepping their boundaries, which I think they are. but we will talk about that. Anybody got anything? Chime in? Come on, somebody. I'm gonna pick somebody. So let's see. Oh, Mel, you haven't ever gotten in here, Mel. How about if you get in here a little bit? Somebody's got to have something. Stephanie, you've been quiet. Wayne's been quiet. Wayne didn't even show up last week.
Hey, I answered the Benjamin Franklin question. I wasn't quiet.
Yeah, I'm also going to be subpoenaing your Google results.
Well, I don't have to. Jason answered it, so I just listened to him and voiced his opinion.
That seems like something he might know, actually. I don't know. You know what it is? It's sitting around that firehouse watching Jeopardy all those years.
Wow, he nailed you perfectly.
He may have that. All right, I'll give you that one to you guys.
I was here last week. I was just really quiet, like this week.
I find that hard to believe with you, but whatever.
It's all the mushrooms.
It's all the. I feel like I just ate mush. All right. All right. So I guess we'll move on then from where were we? Just finished 8. We are. I'm sorry. Just finished 9. Time is it? You know what? I don't think I am going to go. I think I'm going to stop right here because piracy. You would think that piracy is pretty easy to get through, piracy and felonies, but it's not. And then if we try to go to 11, which is their authorization to declare war, there's no way we get both of these done in 30 seconds or in a minute. So does anybody have anything on these? I know some of this stuff is dry, but this is, you have to remember that as we talk about this stuff, this is what we authorize Congress to do. And if we don't authorize Congress to do it here, they don't get to do it. This is their rule book. This is what they're allowed to do. If it is not in the Constitution, if the people don't tell them you are allowed to set up inferior courts, you are allowed to take care of patent and copyright, you are allowed to set weights and measures, they're not allowed to do it. So I know some of this stuff is dry and some of the stuff you guys are like, yeah, you know what, who cares about patent and copyright? But that is one of the things we allow them to do. And this is what's important, is to know what they're allowed to do. Because if it's not in here, they ain't allowed to do it, period. No
I think
other.
a lot of it can be dry, but it's one of those things you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Absolutely. Yep, right. I mean, take away pirate and take away patent and copyright. You know, everybody wants to say Second Amendment, but yeah, I mean, take away patent and copyright and see what happens to innovation in this country. Done. Done. That's one of those things that would destroy this country. Piracy and felonies. Man, I'll tell you what, I want the United States fighting pirates. It's awesome. Should have gone on the Coast Guard. We have any Coast Guard people here? Just kidding, Chris. Chris fought pirates. Tell us about your swashbuckling days, Chris.
A lot of beach watching
And partying.
and island hopping down the Caribbean.
Listen, in fairness, you can't let those pirates come on here and start burying treasure on Myrtle Beach. I mean, somebody
Right.
could watch them. So good for you. Cheers,
Hey,
my
those Somali pirates are nothing to mess around with.
Dude, they're not. And there's, you know, and we'll get into this next week. There's actually, I think it's 4 modern cases where we have charged pirates for attacking U.S. interests and brought them back to the United States. So, yeah, it's not like you see a big schooner flying the Jolly Roger that's off the coast of Virginia Beach. Cannons at yachts as they're going by, but piracy is a real thing out there now, man. And there is money to be made. These guys are getting out of the military that are contracted. If you guys have seen the videos, man, but there's money to be made. Those guys are just up there with AR-15s and saws and 50 cals, and anybody that gets near one of these merchant vessels, they're just lighting them up. That's what I'd like to do. It'd be a good time. Good time. All right, so that's it. Let's get out of here. Renee, are you going to set up the room again, or what are we doing with that? Renee fell asleep.
No,
I can do that. I was on mute. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
was.
is that what we want to do instead of doing it under this address again? Did that seem to work out okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then why don't we do that? We'll give everybody a couple minutes, go to the bathroom, do whatever you got to do. It's going to be an early night for me because I got to work tomorrow. So every other week I'm off. Then I can stay up till 4:30 in the morning drinking and arguing with Renee and Robin, but not tonight. Hey, congratulations to Robin too. She's now a proud American with a CCW permit.
Thank you.
God bless America.
Yep, just got it today.
Got it today.
Awesome.
Hey, Robin, did you go to Lorraine County or Erie?
I went to Tuscarawas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lorraine County's back, I guess. Quite a way.
Uh, 6 weeks ago, they were backed up to May 31st.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Erie County Sheriff, if he's in, he'll actually come out and shake your hand and thank you for getting your permit. He's a
Nice.
wonderful law enforcement officer.
They were backed up to March.
We have the Seneca County Sheriff on the line right now with us right now. I don't know if he's listening, but he's here right now.
Who's that?
Fred Stevens.
Oh, I'm listening.
Where's he at?
Seneca County, Ohio.
No, I mean, I didn't even realize you were.
I came in late. Sorry. This is the first
no.
opportunity I've had to come on.
Dude, listen, man, Sheriff, you are the Sheriff of Seneca County?
I will be 1 second after New Year's Eve. So I'm just got finished being the chief of police at Tiffin and stupidly ran and won the primary. And
yeah, see, listen to that. You hear that, Renee?
Did you hear that, Jim? Did you hear that?
Listen, hold on. All seriousness.
Jim, there's your end of your start.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Frederick, for real. Listen, man. What do you go by? Frederick?
Fred's fine, yeah.
Oh, you know what? Sheriff Stevens. That's a good goal by now.
Right.
Listen, I had put an initial video on when we started this thing and am humbled by the military guys that I get here, police officers that stop in, and especially you as being a sheriff in this state. The fact that you are here to discuss the Constitution under an active oath, man, it means a lot, seriously. So thanks for being here.
No problem. Well, it means a lot to me because I was Army infantry. I know Brad. So the oath means a lot to me. I've taken it several times throughout my career and throughout my police career at City of Tiffin, starting and then through all the different ranks and ending up 8 years there as chief. So doing it again is going to be very humbling. And, we've got some issues here in Seneca County, and I was listening with interest that she had to go to a different county. And that's kind of the way our county is set up. It's very unfavorable towards the public. There's 2 dates, Tuesday and Wednesday, currently, that you can go out there under the old sheriff. And it's on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from like 9 to 11:30. That is not convenient at all. Yeah. So people are going to Sandusky County and Hancock County, and we're losing all that. And so we're going to be Monday through Saturday when I take over, and it's going to be 8 to 5 every day for the citizens to come out. And like Sheriff Sigsworth in Erie County, I will personally come out and shake people's hands if I'm in the office there because I think it's important.
Right on, right on. Is Tiffin in Seneca?
Yes, they're the seat.
Good deal, man. I'm glad to have you here. I appreciate it.
Really no problem. I'm glad I could finally come in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and man, listen, get in here. When we start talking about stuff, feel free to get in.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, we need more people to speak up. So
really, and especially a guy like you who's going to be enforcing the Constitution, man. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm curious as to your feelings on different things. Like the Postal Service. Are you going to shut down the Postal Service in Seneca County then, or what do you? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, you can Google. I've done a lot as the chief there, and during this pandemic and stuff, I've made it clear with our health director that we're not the mass police. We're not enforcing that stuff.
I work in North Ridgeville. And that's, our chief's the same way. We'll go with the health department so that they don't get beat up, but that's
absolutely. But this is a health crisis, not a law enforcement crisis.
Correct. All right. Right on. Renee, man, I got all enamored with the sheriff here. We went a little over, so.
That's okay. That's okay.
Right,
I think we all are. We're very grateful.
Yeah, for real.
Definitely.
All right, so listen, we'll end this now. Renee will get the room set up, go on the group page, and you guys will get over there after party. I'm going to get my bourbon pouring here.
Just one correction: it's sheriff-elect until the January 1st. So I don't want to usurp any powers here.
All right, fair enough.
The office of sheriff-elect.
It's unofficial, but yeah.
So thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. I'll see you guys over there.
All right.
Yep. Bye.